fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flames to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets it to AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer.
Good! It's good! It's good! It's one more!
Larry Blair reverse layup up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown. Look at Bio Baxter Bell.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmesley, splash.
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rome.
Got it! Pacheco with the three.
Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into the AC of Red Liberty Basketball Podcast. Nick Kirby, John Manson, and Liberty legend Joel VanderPol on the program tonight to talk about the 4-0 Liberty Flames. John, how are we feeling?
Feeling pretty good. It's a little bit of different vibes tonight. We had our football podcast last night. A little bit different vibes with the two sports right now. But Coach McKay, I don't know if we want to touch on the signing class any at all, but had a really good signing class. Got a 4-star and a couple 3-stars as well. So things are looking really good for Coach McKay and the Flames.
Yes, that is on my notes. I want to hear more about that because I know you did a great job covering all that. Want to pick your brain on that. Joel, your Vikings doing good?
Is it football season? I will say, they're not doing great. A lot of season left. 2-1 in the division could be worse. I've got nothing. I'm in jail right now with the Vikings, so we can move on.
All right, well, let's cheer everyone up and talk about Liberty basketball, who has not lost a game so far this year. Before we get to that, as always, want to remind you, Jason Porter covering all your real estate, commercial, and residential in the Lynchburg area and beyond. Jason Porter has been an incredible supporter of a Sea of Red, of Liberty sports. Colin, he's on. I see my guy everywhere on the radio, on the sidelines, just doing a great job. And so all of Jason Porter's contact information, Twitter and Instagram on the screen here. Reach out to him for all of your needs. Liberty played a game this week. We're not really talk much about that. We want to talk mostly about the Field of 68 tournament that was or showcase or whatever they called it. That I don't think could have really gone any better for Liberty. 2 blowout wins against 2 programs that are pretty good. I'm unsure how good they'll end up being at the end of the year. That'll be kind of an interesting thing to watch. But, John, what was your biggest takeaway from that weekend?
Well, we talked, the days leading up to it in our last podcast, and I was nervous for the games. It's really it was your first test. And going against 2 mid-majors that are generally pretty solid, respectable at least, and teams that, you think at least have a chance to compete in their conference. And, Liberty far exceeded my expectations in both of those games. Brett Decker, we talked about him some last time too, but what we saw out of him in those 2 games, again, exceeded my expectations. I think, it's not just a flash in the pan that we saw in the season opener, but he's a legit threat. And you add him to Caden Matheny and Colin Porter and Zach Cleveland. I don't want to leave him out either. Obviously, he affects the game differently, but there was multiple moments during those 2 games where I'm sitting there in Liberty Arena and I'm thinking, man, how do you even stop this offense? The Charleston game Friday night up on where the press seats are, the FAU coaching staff came and was sitting there watching the game. And it's kind of funny just hearing their remarks during the game. There was a couple times that, obviously if you look at the two teams, Charleston was gigantic as far as in size and, their length, and really thought that was going to affect us, especially with our, injuries currently in the front court. But, and so hearing some of the FAU coaches talk about, like, anytime Charleston would get the ball inside, they'd be like, oh, that's a bucket and stuff. And J.J. Harper played terrific defense and, got a lot of stops down playing their 5 guy, and their 5-man got in foul trouble early and went to the bench, Christian Reeves. But then just watching their reactions as the Liberty offense kind of unfolded throughout the evening, we were just unconscious, and we're not going to shoot that great every night. But we did last weekend, and it was just fun to kind of watch their, a couple times you look over at them, they just shake their hands after some of that ball movement and just, beautiful shooting. So this team's a lot of fun. I tweeted about it a little bit, but, you don't get Colin Porter, Caden Matheny, and Zach Cleveland coming back a lot in college basketball these days at any program, much less in the mid-major ranks. So we got to make sure we enjoy this season. I'm sure there'll be, down moments and things because it's a long year, but make sure we enjoy this season, appreciate, how good those basketball players, all 3 of them can be considered some of the greatest Liberty basketball players we've ever had. I think each of them get overshadowed a little bit because of the others. But we got to make sure we enjoy this season, this team. They're a lot of fun to watch, and I think we'll have a really special year.
Joel?
I'll tell you what, I think I was wrong on the last pod because I said, hey, guys, maybe Brett Decker's going to come off – he's not coming off the bench. I'm just going to call that out. He's not going to be the 6th man that I thought maybe had a chance. Super impressed with him. I thought the shot selection was really strong in all the games. I think that we are starting to learn roles and minutes and how those are going to be distributed, even though only 2 of the games have been Division I games. So, you can't look at it. It will likely look different come conference play just because we work things out in the early part of the year. But I think roles are starting to become more clear. I think Brett takes a lot of pressure off of Caden. Last year, it was, Caden's got to hit every big shot. We're not in that world anymore. And then 2, I think one of these things that I think we're going to hear on every TV broadcast is Matt Warner's going to be – we're going to be on triple-double watch for Zach, I would say 2 out of 3 nights, realistically. And so I'll give him something to talk about. But really well balanced. It was good to see Josh Smith get in there a few minutes, kind of knock a little bit of rust off, get some up and down. But I was thoroughly impressed with what we saw. I think it's a deep team. They're putting up almost 100 points regardless of the opponent, leading the country in 3-point makes per game. So if shots are falling, Liberty's going to be a tough out for anybody they play.
Yeah, number 1 in college basketball in offensive efficiency. That only tracks the Division I games too. So can't be much better than that. The game against Charleston was the 6th best offensive efficiency performance in Liberty basketball history. For some context, if you look up and down that list of the top 10, it's like the Maryland Eastern Shore and the Delaware State and the Alcorn State. Charleston's the only legit team that's probably anywhere close to the top 200. And
only non-MEAC game. Essentially.
Yeah. Shout out to Longwood. They made it on the list. And Jacksonville, before they kind of turned it around, they were still kind of a bottom feeder then. But yeah, I mean, offensively, this is just an unbelievable team. There's so many, and Eden hasn't even stepped on the floor, who feels like maybe the toughest individual matchup, for an opposing team. Obviously, not the Decker and Matheny, but just in terms of he's the toughest to guard. So offensively, it's insane. I guess my concern, and I want to hear your guys' input, would be the defense, because the defensive numbers weren't great. Having said that, it's also hard, I think, to put up great defensive numbers when you're scoring at will. Certainly, it's just I think a natural thing to. I don't want to say lack effort. I didn't really feel like they lacked effort, but just you don't have that same level of intensity defensively when you're able to score it every single time down the floor.
Yeah, it's game by game, right? I think what Coach McKay is going to want to know about his team is, great, we can beat a team 90-75. We can also beat a team 56-51. And those nights typically find themselves on weeknights on the road in conference, right, is typically when those nights find themselves. But I do not think historically, since Coach McKay's been back, that we can only win one way. I think that we have built the roster in a way that you can win multiple ways. And sometimes it is, we hit 15 threes, and it's other times where Zach has 25 and his are not coming from the perimeter. So I think it's a fair concern, but to your point, the opportunity for that type of a game has not presented itself yet. What you'll want to see is that when that game shows up, and oftentimes it happens on neutral sites, like we'll see a couple of coming up, do we have other ways to win besides, shooting 60% from three is what we'll kind of want to see.
I'm surprised our resident 7-footer didn't bring this up, but I think a lot of the defensive numbers can be attributed to our lack of size currently. I mean, Josh Smith has gotten in the last couple of games, but still playing limited minutes as he kind of works his way back from that knee injury. And then Enan, like you mentioned him a minute ago, Nick, and I think it's easy for us to forget. Like when he went down to injury last year, I was really concerned that
we thought we were cooked.
100%. I thought our season was done when he went down. I mean, he was in my opinion at that time, and I still believe that he was our most important player just from what he brings from his length, his long arms, his ability to stretch the floor and shoot the three. But more important than that is his defense ability and to affect shots in the paint. We don't really have somebody that can do that. I think Josh can. That's probably not his strength, but that's something Enan can definitely do. And, it's also funny when you're watching that game or these games against FAU and Charleston. It's kind of like, this offense is just playing so well. It's hard to say, like, how do you – if you're Coach McKay, how do you try to disrupt their rhythm by bringing in an Enan when he's ready, by bringing in a Smith as he gets ready? But at the same time, the other side of the coin is like there's so much growth left in this team still after what we saw even in these those two D1 games.
Yeah, and the team that comes to mind for me is New Mexico State. They had a really impressive win against New Mexico, and they're just like that dogfight team. It's like how that's the team that you're not going to win pretty against. Like it's very hard to win a game like you won over last weekend.
Don't they win that game every year? Doesn't New Mexico State beat New Mexico in that matchup like every year when they're not supposed to?
It's a big rivalry game.
Yeah.
I think New Mexico won last year. New Mexico was really good last year. They lost their coach.
The other thing is conference play is different too, right? Like these guys, Kennesaw, New Mexico State, I'm sure there'll be other teams that emerge as well too. Like they've been looking at and preparing for Liberty all season, especially after the conference championship win last year and knowing what we were returning. So, they're paying attention to us and they're going to, Kennesaw, if it wasn't for Caden Matheny, unreal night, historic night in the semifinals, we don't have that conference championship because Kennesaw gave us everything that we wanted and then some. So as good as we looked last weekend, we know there's going to be some bumps in the road. We know there's going to be tough outs in Conference USA. And we know at the end of the day, it's going to come down to 3 games in Huntsville in March.
And frankly, too, it was a best case scenario weekend for us too, right? You have a warm-up game against, was it Kentucky Christian? Then you get 2 back-to-back home games. And so, it could have looked different on the road, but these guys have been, I don't mean this in a bad way, they've been incredibly comfortable and at home and sleeping in their own bed and eating their own food and not getting on and off of a plane. You want this to be the result, knowing adversity is coming. It was not an adversity-rich first 4 games. The opponents were formidable, right? FAU, we all know the Final Four story, but it's a good way to start the season as opposed to some non-D1s at home. You got to go play tough road or neutral site games. And then we're sitting here saying the result's different. Who are we? And we were able to kind of figure out a lot of those things at home, which is a really good springboard into some, feast week type matchups.
The Charleston, I that team might not be very good, and definitely not right now. I know they had some guys out, but they went out and lost at home to Drake. Drake's not very good. They lost their coach to Iowa. I think like the whole team went with them to Iowa. Charleston, I think that one's probably not going to age very well. Maybe at the end of the year they get good and go on a run. The FAU one, I think that's pretty legit. They did beat Boston College. I feel good about that one. You did have a pretty big advantage against FAU because FAU was playing back-to-back where Liberty wasn't. So Liberty was a lot fresher in that game. And I think that helped certainly. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, you're going to have obviously this tournament that we'll talk about in a minute, but then NC State and Dayton. We'll kind of get a really good gauge then if you could lose both those games, but if you lose both of those games, but you are very competitive, I'm going to feel really, really good. That's kind of what I'm looking for in that, or obviously maybe even to split those two.
If you win both, Nick, you can probably send a tweet. You've got some grounds to ask the question.
We're up at halftime in NC State. It's flying out there.
We hit the first bucket. Nick's tweeting.
Joel, I know we were talking a little bit. We were texting during I think it was the FAU game. It feels like Zach Cleveland is really playing just his IQ, his basketball IQ just seems to be getting better and better. And teams like they were kind of figuring out how to defend him, we'll step back. And he's now it feels like he's almost using that to his advantage in some ways, just making such smart plays. And we talked about the triple doubles. Like McKay's got to let him get one at some point this year. But what's your thoughts on Cleveland so far?
We kind of made the comp last time to Jesse, just in terms of how he plays, how he's in every play. If he's not in the play, he's still affecting it. And I think similar to Jesse, I do not mean this in a negative way. It's not that he is like the most beautiful player, right? It looks a little bit more muscly than finesse at times, and but incredibly efficient. One of the things that I noticed about Zach is that I think Coach McKay deserves a lot of credit with Zach. Reason being, Zach played incredibly aggressive and maybe on the side of careless his freshman year, but it's like Coach knew what he had in Zach. And so he has had a green light for a while, because as that maturity comes and as those minutes and games under your belt accrue, it just starts to refine itself, if that makes sense. And so I give Coach a lot of credit for early on in Zach's career, letting him play with that. The one dunk that finally went down, we were like, well, we've seen 10 of those hit the back of the rim over his career, because he plays so aggressively. And so I like seeing the refinement on his game without, like, his soul never got sucked out of him from when he was a freshman to a sophomore. And we've seen the maturation, but we're enjoying what we saw from him as a freshman. And we're like, well, this is different. And seeing a more refined, better version of it now. And I would give Coach a lot of credit, because it is not unwarranted to put handcuffs on a freshman, but oftentimes what you do as a result, or as a unhoped for byproduct, is like, well, that player is now a shell of himself. And so I think that we are getting to enjoy the best of what we kind of knew was in there. But he is a problem regardless. If you put a wing on him, he's going to be bigger and stronger. If you put a big on him, then he can bring him out, and he's very comfortable, facing the basket. And then that's when Caden and Colin can attack the rim if they get by. So he's very dynamic. And that's another thing too with Enan when he comes back. Enan starts taking pressure off of Zach, and Zach starts taking pressure off of Enan. And so the front court is looking good with it being majority Zach right now. And we know we have an incredible talent and physical presence, Ian coming back. So I'm excited about what that dynamic looks like coming back. And I actually don't think that they'll rob from each other. I think they'll complement each other.
John, what's kind of your thoughts overall on Cleveland and kind of what we've seen from him early this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Joel hit it. I mean, the refinement, that word is perfect for him because you did see a lot his first 2 or 3 years, on the team where it was just reckless play. And you welcomed it, but at the same time, you knew every game you're going to have 2 or 3 plays that you just scratch your head like, what were you doing? What were you thinking? And, he made up for it. But we haven't seen that yet this year. And I think it's just the refinement of his game, like Joel said, and just his maturation and just him being more confident and more comfortable in who he is and what this team is and what he has around him. I think that's the main thing. And you heard FAU, their head coach we were able to have him in the press conference that Sunday night. And you heard him talk about how, at this point in the season, Liberty is so far ahead of everybody else and so far ahead of us because they have these returning players. Even Decker, right? He played some last year and was part of this team. He's been working out with the team and knows the system. So that 4-headed monster, like we said, it's tough to deal with. And they know each other. They're comfortable with each other. And we've seen that in Zach and his game and just – he's really taken it to the next level. And, I was listening to the NASCAR podcast earlier today, and they talked about it, how, I think it was Scar brought it up, how Zach could end up averaging a triple-double but never even have an actual triple-double in a game. Although I do think he'll probably get one. And if he does, it'll be the first one we've had as a Liberty team, a Liberty player since Jesse. Which I guess when was his? Yeah, it is. Last time was that 2011?
He was 08 through 12 is what he was.
So 11-12 that season would have been the last time we had a player get a triple double. So I think it's coming, just a matter of time.
Are you sure I didn't have one? After Jesse left, Nick, be quiet. John, are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. You might have gotten it in.
I had some triple singles.
10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 turnovers.
I was going to say 10 minutes.
10 minutes, 10 rebounds, and add in the points and blocks.
10 attaboys. Yeah, if you combine turnovers, blocks, and rebounds, we might have something to talk
about. Brett Decker has obviously been like a revelation, and I'm trying not to get too far ahead on a kid that's barely scratched the surface of his college career. But I think the shooting hasn't really blown me away as much as I guess I maybe underestimated his athleticism. Because I didn't really feel like we saw a lot of that last year. It was like, go stand in the corner and shoot a 3, we'll kick it to you, or try to play defense. He's like way more athletic than I kind of thought.
Yeah, the special thing about Brett is he, playing with those guys, specifically Caden and Colin, he has no pressure on him. Like, he can just pick and choose his spots. Like, there's moments in each of those 2 games against FAU and Charleston that he just, not that you forget about him, but you do forget about him because you got Caden and you got Colin and you got Zach, but then all of a sudden he'll come out of nowhere and make 3 straight threes. And, he's just able to play with such incredible freedom and doesn't have any pressure on him because, he knows that, if his shot misses, he's got Caden, or he's got Colin, or he's got Zach, or even a JJ Harper. So he's been a lot of fun to watch. And, if you watch the Field of 68, they did that, after dark show every night and Friday and Sunday night when they were here, or Saturday as well, too. They did it from Liberty Arena. And after the Liberty games, you could go back and watch them, and they were just gushing about Brett Decker. And not to mention it, I keep going back to it, but FAU's head coach also talked about Brett Decker and how his development and his growth since last year has kind of push this team into another echelon of, and it really is. Like, I mean, our offense is just, again, Caden's going to have off nights. He's had off nights this season. Brett's going to have off nights. Colin's going to have off nights, but when you have all three of those guys, you feel like any given night, at least one of them is going to have, is going to be on. So you just like your odds when you have that extra guy who can score 20 any given night, or who can score 30 any given night.
One of the things I'll say too is they've known this about Brett. There's not a single person in the building surprised. I was talking to Coach Johnson, Derek, at Kennesaw before the game, and I was like, "What's the deal with this kid?" And he's like, "Dude, like," and the problem last year was like, you still had Caden and Colin, and you had Talon, so it's like, find a spot, right? And so what's so impressive, like the most impressive thing is that he didn't transfer, like realistically, because he knows who he is. He's got the coaching staff gassing him up, saying like, "Hey man, just wait your time." And he might be like, "Dude, I'm not waiting my time. Like, if I'm as good as you say I am," and we are finding out he is, like, not transferring is actually maybe the most impressive component of this. And I'll say this too, like I've done hundreds of scouting reports, right, or whatever it is. Maybe 100. If everyone's a shooter, then no one's a shooter, right? If every single guy is like, you got to be hard closeout, hands up. Well, you can't literally do that for every single guy. So, John, you're saying that Caden might be taking pressure off of Brett. I think that could easily be reversed because they're watching tape from this year. They're not going to watch a ton of tape from last year. And now you're saying Caden might go off in the next, because you can't have your best defender on everybody. And what game was it? I think it was one of the Field of 68 ones. And if this was one of the non-D1 ones, then just ignore the conversation. But was there a point at which they were guarding him out at half court and like ISOing, we're playing 4-on-4 because he's not going to shoot the ball. Now that I'm saying it makes it sound like a non-Division I defensive strategy. But I'm just telling you, that is the respect that he is going to get. And so then you say, well, we know Xander Yates can come in and shoot 5 for 5 from 3. Like, we know that Colin, when open, is going to probably shoot 60% from 3. And Caden was far and away one of the best shooters in the country last year, certainly on our team. So is Brett now a decoy? Like, take your pick, So I would not say it's a situation where only Caden's taking pressure off of Brett. He is playing free, but they're watching the tape, dude. And they're seeing like, hey, we came into this 2 weeks ago thinking that that Caden was the guy that we've got to close out hard on. And that might be Brett. And you can't get that sort of attention on 3-4 guys, or else direct line drives, back cuts all night.
Caden seems so comfortable if he doesn't score. And I know the broadcast was talking about it a lot over the week. Like, he's just completely fine, and it doesn't, like, there's a lot of players that they would have a hard time with that. They'd have a hard time getting back into rhythm. It just feels like he doesn't. Oh, I could just be a decoy for 15 minutes, and then all right, they're gonna start sagging off me, and I'm just gonna go off on him. He's just got that like killer instinct that that not a lot of players have.
I will say this too, right? Like, game on the line, need a big shot. You're probably running action for Caden. Like, oh yeah, I think he's still earned that for sure. But yeah, Caden might be sitting there saying, "Hey, you know what? This is a lot better than doing real estate," because the broadcast is going to call that out at least 4 times a night. And shout out Matt Warner, he's my guy. But we know what he was supposed to be doing this year.
Have they put that in the game notes, John?
I haven't seen it in there, but just give it time; it'll be there.
Every broadcast, every road ESPN Plus game. Hey,
John, you know what the worst one of all time was? Different sport. Do you remember what the worst one of all time was? That's very similar to this.
Aaron Bedgood.
Aaron Bedgood. This guy was working at State Farm 4 months ago.
Yeah, and then was it Luke McKay, his first child?
First kid, yeah.
That was every game. Was that like 2 years ago? I think it was every game. Yeah.
I mean, when you're blowing teams out, you got to find something to talk about.
Got to find something to talk about, yeah.
Well, we got a fun tournament coming up here, the 24th. What is that? Is that this week?
Monday.
Monday.
ESPN. Exciting tournament. I got the bracket here somewhere. Here you go. Oh, it goes behind us. I have it on the wrong one. Well, nonetheless, we play a tournament. We play Vermont in the first game. Vermont picked to win the America East. There you go. There's the bracket for you. The adventure bracket, Liberty taking on Vermont. As mentioned, Vermont picked to win the America East. They're 170 in Ken Palm. Should be a good matchup. I know Liberty beat Vermont in one of those tournaments. I think it was also down in ESPN.
The Myrtle Beach one.
Okay. Another tropical place. They beat them in a tournament a couple years ago. The next game will be really interesting. Rhode Island or Towson. I mean, this is you're going to get a good opponent whether you win or lose, because Rhode Island, they just had a win over Yale. If you don't know about Yale, Yale's top 80 right now in Ken Palm. Rhode Island comes in at 101. Towson's 137. They're the CAA favorite. So we just saw Charleston out of the CAA. Going to get a look at the team picked to actually win that league. So, man, these first two games are going to be, I think, two really good games, two really good tests. I love this tournament. I know that there's not the name power, but these, I think, are the kind of teams you want to play. Like, there's a lot of top mid-majors. You look down at the bottom of the bracket, UC San Diego, they were an incredible story. 12 seed, almost beat Michigan last year. They're picked third in the Big West. The Big West is one of the sneaky best conferences in college basketball this year. Princeton picked fourth in the Ivy. Bradley picked fourth in the Missouri Valley. That's a very deep conference. So yeah, there's a lot of good teams in this tournament. I don't know, John. What have you kind of heard about this tournament? Is there anyone that's kind of maybe that you're hearing about that's maybe a sneaky team in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it some today. Liberty is currently the highest rated team in Ken Palm in the tournament. So, Liberty will be favored in all three games, likely regardless of who they play. And hopefully, you really want to get that win over Vermont to start it off, because then you're going to be in the winner's bracket and you're going to play two good games after that as well, too. But all three of the games that you play, regardless of who it is, are going to be similar to Conference USA type teams that you play. And, I think Vermont, obviously, they've been a mainstay in March Madness the last decade. I think they've been to 6 tournaments in the last 10 years or something like that. They're always at the top of the American East. They win 20 games plus every season. So that's going to be a tough challenge. They're a similar team to us. They like to shoot the three, a lot of floor spacing, might be a little bit bigger on the wing than we are. But should be a great test. And then Rhode Island, I think, is probably, taking Liberty out of the equation, is probably the next best team in this tournament, at least on paper going into it. They're coached by Arch Miller, who had a good run. I know he's at Dayton. Did he go to Cincinnati, I think, after that? But, he's at Rhode Island. I think this is his 4th year there. They've improved each of his first 3 seasons. So I would expect them to compete in the A10, which, are really good. I mean, top 5 or 6 league probably in the country. VCU's there and Dayton, who we'll see later. But I think Rhode Island will be a fringe, NCAA tournament type team. So I expect them to see their Ken Palm numbers and RPI, or not RPI, net numbers rise throughout the season. So hopefully you can get those 2 games your first 2, and then you never know who you'll play the last one. But you got Temple in there as well too. Maybe we get a rematch with Caillou, who's now at Bradley, and he's actually playing for the Braves. I watched one of their games the other night, and I mean he was one of their first guys off the bench and played 15-20 minutes. And there's some talented teams here. And like I said, all 3 games, regardless of who you end up playing, are going to end up being similar type profiles to Conference USA teams. They're all top 200 in Ken Palm currently, except for I think Princeton is just outside of the top 200, but the rest of them are from 100 to in the top 200, from 100 to 200. So should be some good tests.
My only concern is Vermont's first game, and if you guys know where I'm going with this, they beat Western New England Golden Bears by 7 points, outscored in the second half, right? You said Ken Palm doesn't count non-ones, so that's not great. I do agree that this is a great tournament, a good field in terms of any one of these mid-majors is one that it's a well-curated tournament. I think and I was telling John this before we went live, was I think these neutral site feels like it's always a cold arena. It's kind of stale. They're great equalizers because what we had going for us our first several games was home court advantage, home cooking, know the arena, know the depth perception, know the rims, and but again, it affects everyone. And so I think it's a great equalizer to see who has the stuff that travels, who has the stuff that can. There might be some 65, 61 games in this tournament because everyone's just not comfortable. And the good thing is it's equal for everyone. But that I think is, I would be surprised if we don't see one of those games in here that we're talking about, where it's like, we're not going to shoot whatever we're shooting from three in every game. And these feel like road games, even though they're neutral. Road games are sometimes easier than neutral site games because, like, in conference, they're familiar. The environments are familiar. It's sometimes easier when everyone's against you and you just have your own team, as opposed to like there's no juice in the building at all, right? It's as much fun to get a gym to go quiet as it is to get loud. So I'll be really interested to see how, like, this is a grinded out week and this is a grinded out tournament. And so I'm excited to see how they play when they don't have home cooking and when they're, everything's a little bit more off. I think these are really good preparations for neutral site conference tournaments and for road games in conference, which we know are not too far ahead of us.
Yeah, Vermont, kind of a fun matchup. They're coached by Becker, which is John Becker, I think is his name. He's been there since 2012. So kind of two coaches in Richie McKay and Becker, who I'm sure have had opportunities to go elsewhere, but have stayed and build a program, and that'll be fun. Vermont has two players that were in the America East preseason all-conference team, both guards with size 6'4" and 6'5". So there'll be some tough matchups. But yeah, definitely a winnable game. Interesting too, these games are all like early. Did you guys know this? I didn't know this. 11 a.m. on Monday, and if you win, noon on Tuesday and noon on Wednesday. So this will be some true day basketball, which is fun because I think, guys, there's more eyeballs when you're playing when no one else is.
Yeah, sure. I think Liberty's game's 2:30, the second game on Monday. But then, yeah, you're right. If you win and you stay in the winners bracket, you'll play afternoon games Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And Liberty's been really good in these neutral site tournaments the last several seasons. I mean, last year we won the Paradise Jam where we beat Kansas State and McNeese, yeah, Will Wade and McNeese. And then, a couple of years ago we beat Vermont, and that might have been the championship game of the Myrtle Beach Invitational. And I mean, I'm sure there's others I'm forgetting, but we've been really good in these early season neutral site games against other typically mid-major programs. So does that carry over this year? I mean, you never know, but Liberty's going to be coming in with a lot of confidence and feeling good. And it's really been a weird part of the schedule too, because there's been just that one game against whoever we played Monday night, and 2 weeks since in between the games, between when you play Monday against Vermont, going back to that FAU game, and then even after this tournament, there's another like 10 or 11 day break before you play. I think it's Coppin State. So I'm interested to see play three straight days, 3 games in 3 days. Like, how does Coach McKay use his bench? He shortened it a lot against FAU, if you remember. I mean, the 5 starters played all, I think, over 30 minutes, if I remember correctly. So who are we going to see that's going to be that 6th, 7th, and 8th guy as we get deeper into the season? I think we'll start to find some of that out this coming week.
Yeah, I would say that travels your year, because I think that's Coach McKay. I think that's the common denominator why they continue to play well these tournaments is that he gets his teams ready for this. Remember that? Remember the ballroom in the year that we started like 17-0.
Kyle Rode, as a freshman,
Went off. Yeah,
he was the MVP of that tournament. Was Caleb Holmesley hurt that week and didn't even play?
I don't know. I was watching on like the grainiest bootleg stream or something. It was on the $70 a month Flow Hoops.
Yeah, it felt like the Big South Network back in the day.
Yeah. Big South Network might have been better.
I will say the 11 o'clock games are brutal. Like that is those are like a noon, like 1:30. I can get away with it. A morning game is brutal. Like
we play at 1:30 on Monday.
Yeah,
I was reading it wrong.
Losers bracket goes to 11, I think, the next day. But that's the morning game is especially where like there might be 50 fans. That's going to be that's a brutal wake up call. But that was all I had to say about that.
Yeah, you mentioned it though, Nick, is it's a great, play in the afternoon. Like the game Monday's on ESPNU, and if you stay in that winners bracket, you're going to be on ESPNU or ESPN2, I believe. In the last two, I know the championship's ESPN2. So playing again Wednesday at 1 o'clock or noon or whatever it'll be on ESPN2. Feast week, like there's going to be a lot of eyeballs, so that could really help you out. Just getting the team out there, and I think the field at 68 really helped out in that regard too. So it should be fun. Hopefully, you can arrange your lunch breaks at work to watch some midday hoops this week or next week.
Maybe not as I mean, I'm sure there'll be eyeballs in it, like being during the day is better. But I'm looking at the schedule while Liberty's playing at 1:30. Tennessee and Rutgers are playing. UAB and Southern Illinois, Baylor and Creighton's playing, and Seton Hall and NC State all playing like around the same time. So I guess there's a lot of tournaments that are starting on Monday. It'll also be interesting because this tournament at this complex, there's 3 tournaments there that week. The other 2 are on the weekend. They're only 4-team small tournaments. They start on Thursday. Thursday. So this tournament's an 8-team. It's Monday through Wednesday, and those start on Thursday. I'm curious. I don't know if like some of the national press that's going down to these games, probably guys who write college basketball that live on the East Coast. I wonder if some of them come towards the end of this tournament to kind of get more bang for your buck covering more games. So I don't know how many people in coverage there'll be, but yeah, got to get past Vermont. They're going to be a tough challenge. Joel, your point about size, they're about double in terms of like their ranking in size. Liberty, I think, is the smallest in the country. They're in the mid 150s, so they're certainly a lot bigger, but it hasn't really been an issue so far this year. We'll see if when and where it might come into play.
I think that the pack line is designed to protect against not having a 7-foot rim protector. The amount of help side defense, where you're forcing guys on the court. I think this will be a very good. I think many of the teams that we are playing or could play, their roster will be similar to the Conference USA teams, and so it is a good litmus test of how we play against guys with sides, with longer wings, with stronger guards or whatever. I think it's a really good shot in the arm of what's conference play going to feel like. And you're going to have, little tape and little prep for each opponent. Now we're the exact same, they'll have little time to prepare against us, but those are fun because you can't prep for very long. You kind of have to just be like, all right, do we have it or do we not? Like, does our defense travel or does it not? Are we able to remain unselfish when we're facing adversity or not? So it's just kind of a lace them up and get out there and get as much prepping as you can. But it'll be good to see how we play against teams with more size for sure.
I'm probably getting way ahead of myself here, and Coach McKay, when you're watching this, go ahead and mute me for the next 60 seconds or so, and same thing with the players as well too. But I'm taking a step back and looking at the big picture. Like, you just had 2 pretty solid wins at home. and you got 3 games coming up on a neutral in the next week that are going to be, decent tests, but games that I think, you're probably at least a slight favorite in all 3, regardless of who you play. I mean, if you can pick up 3 wins, not going to be easy, but if you can pick up 3 wins, then you got Coppin State, who you should be a sizable favorite against after that before you play NC State. I mean, you could be sitting here at, 7-8-0 going into that NC State game, who looks like a potential top 25 team. I mean, that could be a huge game in terms of, where does this team go? Like, what's the team's ceiling moving forward? Again, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Conference USA, 99% chance it's going to be a 1-bid league, and 99% chance if we win those 3 games in Huntsville in March, we're going to be around 11, 12, or 13 seed. But having said that, like, these are the games. This is a stretch that you could string together some wins and start to put together a really solid mid-major resume.
I mean, I think it'd be pretty awesome to sneak into the top 25. Like, that's a big – Liberty's never been in the top 25 before. I think we got votes at the end of one of the years. I'm sure Richie McKay would say it doesn't matter. I don't believe him. I think it matters to him. I think he would love to be, get the first team ever ranked in the top 25, even if it's for a week. But like you point out the schedule, I mean, you keep getting to another week undefeated and teams start losing and falling out. You get yourself a chance to sneak in, and maybe you just have to win that one game against NC State, because then you have another 2 weeks of polls after that. You could sneak your way in. Again, way ahead of ourselves, but it does matter. And at some point, I do believe this team will find a way to sneak into a top 25 at some point. I know it would mean something to me, and I think it would mean a lot to this program.
I would disagree. I disagree and agree, meaning you're saying Coach McKay would say it doesn't matter, and it's exactly what he would say. And you're saying it does matter. To be clear, it doesn't matter for this unique unit of players. It certainly matters from a recruiting standpoint, right? It certainly matters from future teams and future talent. And of course, they're managing the recruiting pipeline throughout the season. And so it does matter. But to John's point too, is Selection Sunday, if we were ranked 25th for 10 days, they're not going to be like, well, I mean, that's worth at least 2 more, a 2 seed difference. So I'm not trying to be just argumentative. It does matter and it doesn't matter, but it doesn't necessarily matter for this season unless if you get it and then you sustain it throughout conference play. Well, yes, now we're talking, but we know how Conference USA conference play is. And so the chances of running through a league are really slim in that league. It does matter for other things that the program and fans care deeply about, which is getting studs in here every single year, because it would be monumental from where the program has been to where it is.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, FAU is the perfect example. They got like a 9 seed. They were like ranked 15th in the country or something. And obviously they screwed that up. So they'll screw mid majors with seeding any opportunity they can, and they don't give a rat's what your AP poll says. Just from a fan of the program and an alum, it would mean a lot to me. So I'm not trying to put pressure or anything and say this has to be the year we do it. This is our best opportunity. We'll never get this again. Not saying that at all. But yeah, it is an opportunity here for sure.
And I would say, it's exciting. It's fun to talk about. At the end of the day, NCAA tournament wins are what cures everything. Look at Florida Gulf Coast admissions after Dunk City in 2013, right? It's like those are the things that actually, like Sweet 16, that is something you can't take away. We're not hanging banners for 2 weeks in the top 25, but you do hang banners for Sweet 16. Yeah, personal banner, personal record book. But yeah, I think that no one's disagreeing here. We're just kind of arguing with each other for fun.
I mean, I don't, you can't see it behind me, but I've got a top 50 in Ken Palm banner hanging somewhere back there.
Top 50 offense. I'm surprised your best offensive efficiency performance since, or whatever. I'm surprised there's not a banner that's uplit for that in the back.
All right. Well, we have to keep this under an hour. But John, before we get off here, I did want to hear a little bit about the recruits, because I know you did a lot of work with some great stories and articles about the recruiting class and some of the players that Richard McKay's picked up. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what recruiting service you look at, it's as high as a top 50 recruiting class nationally, which is really impressive. I mean, that hasn't happened. I think it's been once or twice before. I know the class with Seth Curry and Jesse Sanders, that class was highly rated. I'm not sure if it was top 50 or not. I know it was a top 100. There's another one under Mel Higginson back in the day that I think he got recruits to sign just to prop up the rankings, and then they never showed up on campus. But no, this is a legit class, and arguably one of the best classes. And again, you can sit here and say it's one of the best classes we've ever had, but you don't know that until they get on campus and show up and see what they got. But Eli Sankum, a true 6'5", 6'6", a guard from West Virginia Gatorade Player of the Year as a junior last year. He's point guard skills, great shooter. He's a 4-star guy, top 100 national recruit. We've never had anybody rated anywhere near as high as Eli's rated. He had offers from all types of schools throughout the Midwest and over to the East Coast as well too. I think he had a top 5 that included, Liberty and Iowa and Loyola was another one. I think St. Louis was in there as well too. But we beat him out, for some for his services, which is good to see. And we beat all 3 of these kids. We beat out other schools, which that hasn't always been the case. Sometimes we're getting guys that their only D1 offer was Liberty. So Eli, I did get a chance to meet up with him. He was in town the weekend of the Field of 68. Put out an article on that. I'm sure most of you watching and listening have already read that and got to meet him. He fits perfectly for my time. I got to spend with him and some of his high school coaches, and met his younger brother as well too. But he'll fit in perfectly with this team. And it's great to have, again, Coach McKay has gotten beat up so much over the past few years about having these small guards in Colin and Caden. But if you look forward, I don't think you're going to see many more backcourts with 2 sub-6 foot guards on the roster. And it starts with guys like Eli coming in. There's another Eli, Herbert, who signed as well. He's a 3-star from Missouri, I believe I'm correct. Coach McKay in his press release said that he has the potential to be one of the greatest shooters we've ever had, which that's really high praise, especially knowing who we got on the team currently and who we've seen recently. Again, it's a little bit of coach speak, saying something like that before a guy even plays a senior year of high school. So
he said the same thing about me when I signed, had the chance to be one of the greatest shooters in Liberty history.
He said that about a few guys back in those days too, and it didn't quite work out. But he's Reed Shepherd. He played for Reed Shepherd is. I see a comment there. That's Reese Davidson. Is played at the same high school as Reed Shepherd in Kentucky. He's the 3rd signee that Liberty got. 6'7", 6'8", kind of stretch forward. Another 3-star guy, and he was in playing in Kentucky. Played for the same high school coach as Kyle Rode. At a different school, but he led his team to I believe they got to the final 8 in the Kentucky State tournament. Which in Kentucky. They don't have classifications. Just everybody shows up at Rupp Arena if you make it that far, regardless of classification. And he made it that far. And go back and look at the stats that he put up in the Kentucky State tournament. He was averaging over 30 points a game, playing against some really high-level competition. So 3 really good signees. Again, it's easy to say that here in November, a year before they ever suit up for the Flames, but it just goes to show that Coach McKay is doing a great job, and his staff. I mean, Derek Johnson, don't want to take anything away from him or the rest of his recruiting staff, but really, really good-looking players and prospects. And this current freshman class that's here now, we didn't talk about any of them tonight, but some of them maybe came in without much fanfare, but Xander Carter specifically looks like he's going to be a rotation player from day one. He has been so far. So it's really solid freshman class we got this year. But we're going to have a lot of seniors that are on this team currently that aren't going to be here next year. So a lot of, some of these guys like Eli, like I would expect him to have the chance to start as day one next year. So it looks really good. Again, it's on paper, so we'll see how they translate when they get here and start playing, competing against other, Division I college basketball players.
One thing we haven't talked about, I meant to do this on the first show, was talk about Kyle Rode joining the Liberty staff. I think we all believe he's going to be the future Liberty coach at some point. John, what's kind of that been like? What's like kind of his role been, and what kind of impact has he had so far?
Yeah, it's kind of unique to see him there because, this is a guy that, could have still been playing professionally, whether that was in the G League or overseas, but he decided to come and join Liberty and the coaching staff here. And he's kind of like the defensive coordinator. And, so he's taken on the former, Brad Soucy had that role when he was on staff, and then Joe Pierre, who has moved on. But so Kyle's kind of taking that on, leading that pack line defense, coaching the guys up there. But, he played, not too long ago for the Flames and under Coach McKay. And so it's kind of cool to just see that. And, Coach McKay's been here long enough now that you're starting to see, like we're talking about, obviously, some of his players come back to coach. And you joke about it, Nick, but, Coach McKay always ranted and raved about, and we saw it, Kyle and his leadership ability. Like, he does have the potential to be a tremendous coach one day. Again, he's just a few weeks onto the job, right? But a month or two, but, really looking forward to seeing how his career develops. And you never know, he could be the heir apparent to Coach McKay when he hangs it up in, 25 years.
I was at practice, and Kyle has such credibility. I don't think there's many guys that can, he was mature beyond his years when he was playing. And then he played in the G League. And so there's, you could tell it was not like, well, this guy just got out, he just got out of the G League. He's trying to rebound and figure out, what he wants to do with his life. It's not that at all. Exceptional credibility, very clear communicator. And again, coach trusts him. Like, coach gives him plenty of latitude during practice to own components of the practice. And so I think it's great. I think like I said, not many guys could do that. But it's kind of like what he was built for. And so it's good to see him there and back in the mix. And realistically, 2 years from being in uniform. So unique, and I think really special.
Yeah, whenever I would interview Rode, it felt like you had to prepare like you were interviewing a coach, not a player. Like you had the coach questions for Kyle. So no, I'm really excited to still have him around the program. It was just such a tremendous guy and representative for our school, and just cool to have him still around. All right, well, any final thoughts? Joel, start with you. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Feast week, enjoy it. It's a great week of the year for college basketball. You can literally watch basketball from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. if you want to. So I'm excited to see how these guys travel, excited to see how they kind of work through variables they haven't had to work through yet, and kind of see what we get out on the other side. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, going away from home, like Joel was talking about, first time all season. So, we spent the first 2+ weeks at home, and like we've talked about for the last hour, had really successful 4-game stretch. So let's see how this translates. We haven't really talked about it, but Colin, and, he didn't play again Monday night. I think that was just a load management type thing. He could have played if needed. And Brett Decker didn't play in the second half, had his left foot taped and wrapped. Coach McKay said after the game he's not really worried about it, and they should be fine, be ready to play. But injuries are part of the game, and especially when you're playing 3 consecutive days, it's something you got to worry about. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the team plays away from home, and also let's see what this bench looks like too, because you can't ride 5 guys, 30 plus minutes every night for 3 straight games. And you can't do that throughout an entire 18-game Conference USA schedule either, too. So, and again, I'm not saying that we don't have depth. We do. I think we're significantly deeper than we were last year, but you also can't have 12 guys. Like, you got to figure out who are those 2, 3, 4 guys that you can trust at any minute to kind of go in, or any game to go in and play for a guy that's injured. So games like this, tournaments like this are huge for those type of, that bench development. But at the end of the day, you're playing to win the game, and hopefully Liberty, can next week this time we're celebrating a ESPN Events Invitational Championship.
Another banner behind me. Looking
Terry's
forward
Chocolates, ESPN.
Yeah.
Don't forget to sponsor.
Don't forget
shortchange Terry's. Appreciate you, Terry. Well, fellas, this has been a lot of fun. Enjoy this as always, and looking forward to a fun tournament. I think is going to hopefully have some really good basketball, and we'll kind of see where this Liberty team shakes out, and then, fellas, we'll reconvene at some point after the tournament and see kind of where we're at heading into 2 really great road games for Liberty that I'm looking forward to in the month of December. All right. Well, if you are new here, be sure you are subscribed to the Sea of Red podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you like the stream if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe to A Sea of Red on YouTube. And of course, be sure to check out aseaofred.com for all the latest Liberty news and analysis. And shout out to Jason Porter Real Estate for sponsoring the program as always. Well, until next time, go Flames.